You're listening to the Proposify Biz Chat with Kyle Racky, a podcast for entrepreneurs looking to scale. This episode is brought to you by Proposify, software that streamlines your proposal process, impresses clients, and helps you close more deals. Head to proposify.com to start your free trial today.
Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Kyle. It's good to be back on the podcast. It's been a long time.
We exiled you for a long time, and then our ratings tanked, and then we brought you back.
I had to come back. Come back, kid.
You got to save us.
But no more beer. No more agencies drinking beer.
I would
drinking
say
water.
No more beer.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
Changing the whole flow.
Got a little out of hand.
Now it's agencies drinking tequila. Give me another shot.
Yeah. It's been a little while since we had you. You did a video though a few months ago.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, you like doing that. You like being on camera.
It's fun. You guys usually keep me tucked away in a corner, so it's nice for me to come out every once in a while.
You're usually out of the office, shaking hands and kissing babies,
schmoozing,
and buying toilet paper, but
and trying to find investors too.
That's all going to change. That's all going to change. We're not going to have to wear as many hats.
Exactly.
We're going to be hiring.
Yes.
So it's nice to have you back on the show. We want to do this more often. We've been doing a lot of interviews and haven't had just you and me, the original duo for a long time.
I know.
Yeah. But we're going to get into the discussion at hand. So one thing we want to talk about is for people that follow this, you may remember earlier in this year we published a video talking about how we hired sales reps, how it was kind of an experiment. We didn't really have a sales process ironed out. A lot of our product was kind of automated, very, low touch, and we wanted to see what would having a sales team do for that. So anyway, you can check out that post. We'll link to that in the show notes. But, one thing we want to share is we've been trying to iron out the sales process now for about a year, really. So we kind of threw Amy and Ryan into it, just said, figure it out. We kind of saw what worked and what didn't. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, is this a repeatable model? Could we hire additional salespeople to just come in, follow the process and get, the same results? Wouldn't say we're quite there yet, but we're working on it. So, wanted to share our process and kind of document what we're doing in case listeners have, salespeople that work for them. Maybe they're trying to work out a sales process. Maybe they're trying to learn how it's done. We can share some of our ideas.
Yeah, I mean, our process is it's SaaS. It's a bit different. That's why I think we had some challenges. It's something new for us. We're very fortunate to have such a great marketing team. We have all those leads coming in every day. Now it's a matter of struggling to find the right leads to go back to. That's where it all starts.
And really, it's not. I mean, it has its own unique set of challenges, but it's not that much. I mean, if you have a higher priced offering like an agency, you're going to run into a lot of those same issues, right? Of maybe there's people emailing you saying hey, want to get together, grab a coffee and chat, and you just, how much time do I spend on this lead? I don't want to waste a morning, and then they find out they've got a $500 budget for a website or something like that.
True.
So a lot of that's the same.
It is. We've been there.
So one thing I wanted to talk about is this idea of, I guess, a toolbox. So the reason I use this term is that I remember when I was a young designer starting out in the agency world, there's a senior designer who I work with named Chad, and he referred to design styles as like a tool in his toolbox. So when you start out in design, basically your head is empty. You don't know what anything good looks like, and that's why you have to read a lot of design magazines and kind of look at inspiration and go oh, I like what they did there. I like that style. And then once you've been working for a few years, you kind of build up this go-to kind of toolkit to do new projects. So if your client goes, oh, we're doing a hip new fashion brand, it should appeal to teens, and you kind of go okay, I know what type of fonts I want to use. I know kind of the color palette. I know this style. I've seen this in a magazine. Whereas if they go, it's this really corporate where it's an oil and gas company, you've got a toolbox for that type of project. It doesn't mean every project is exactly the same. It just means you've got kind of tools that you already know work. You know, you're not just starting from a blank canvas. I kind of almost thought of that when we were talking about sales. So leads often come to you with objections, questions. Do you have this feature? Why should I use you above the competition? And I think what we're trying to do is empower our salespeople, give them tools in their toolbox. Doesn't mean every conversation is going to go exactly the same way, but it just means they've got a kind of a standard approach to how they answer things so that each salesperson isn't completely just making it up as they go along. What do you think of that?
I agree. Getting back to, design toolboxes. I think with sales and design in any profession, you kind of have to start out with your own internal toolbox. In a sense, you have to have certain skills. I'm not a great designer, and with a few tools, I could probably whittle my way through it. But I think salespeople have to have a certain passion for people and for having great listening skills, and these aren't really in a toolbox. They're things that you just need to have and know how to do. So I think starting there is important, and then bring in the toolbox in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I guess the analogy sticks because same thing with design. Like if you're just a horrible designer and you never took any training and you have no interest in it, obviously the toolbox isn't gonna. You still have to know how to wield the tools, right? Exactly. So it's kind of the same. Like you get the tools once you actually are a salesperson with the basics of knowing how to be persuasive and all the other skills that are required. It was kind of we tried this just a couple of weeks ago. Was role playing,
right?
And before you get any sick ideas, just we were basically just saying, okay, some of the salespeople are having this problem. Let's just talk through how would you talk to a new lead, or maybe I act as the salesperson and they act as the client, or vice versa. And so we did that. We tried it a couple of ways. You were the client, and one of our salespeople was, showing us how she'll handle an early qualification call. What did you pull out of that?
Well, just take a step back. I remember one of my first jobs out of university was working for a travel school, and it was before the internet. So it was called a correspondence course. So for 6 months, you take a course where they're actually every month you get, or I think it was, or week, you were mailed, a booklet, and then you'd have to take a test after, mail it in, and then you'd go 3 months to Miami to the actual school, do some hands-on. And I had to sell that in the state of Maine. And I tell you, I had a script, and I would listen to it on my cassette player before I'd get there to each of the homes. I'd be going to people's homes, and these are people that students that just graduated from high school who didn't really have an opportunity to go to university. So we get these leads, and then I'd go in and had to make sure the parents were there, and both parents.
It was door to door?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had leads, and I would make an appointment before I'd go. But I remember every time I went off script, I screwed myself up. I had to really stick to the script because it worked. It was so well done, and it took me a while to really get it down, but I would just listen to it all the time. So role playing, we did a lot of role playing in the office, and it really does work. It builds confidence, so you're confident of what you're selling and how you're going to sell it. And then we would do different scenarios. So pretty much anything they could throw at me, but after I'd been doing it for a while, I could answer, and overcome that objection.
I did role playing in a different way when I was a kid. That sounds really bad, but no. If a lot of people know that I grew up Jehovah's Witness, so I had to go door to door, selling watchtowers. So they actually sold them at the time when I was a kid. You had to charge 10 cents or something. Go in the back.
Not even a stick of gum with it or anything.
No, yeah. But every 100th one, you got a steak knife or something.
Oh, nice.
But so my point being, we had to do role playing the night before. So there'd be a new magazine every 2 weeks, the new Watchtower and Awake, and it would have a different headline or a different topic. And the night before Friday was the night that you were supposed to prepare your presentation and then do it for your parents and have them be the householder. And
Wow.
you do the pretend knock, and then you do like the presentation, and they would pretend to be the other person.
Wow.
Is that weird?
Well, yeah, it is, but it's selling.
Yeah.
I mean, I have them come into my door, especially the Mormons lately. I've had a few. Yeah, they're pretty good.
Great musical on Broadway too.
Yeah, I get to see that. But, the great thing about role-playing too, it develops good listening skills, because that's a big part of it too. I'm sure you learned that when you went door to door.
Yeah, exactly. Tailoring your presentation
Exactly.
to the householder or the client.
Yes.
But, so if you haven't done that, for those listening, something worth looking at, even if you're the only salesperson, let's say you're the business owner and your job is to sell your clients' businesses, I still think practicing out loud really helps, especially if you're not like a natural born salesperson, with your wife, or your husband, or whoever, just gets you used to delivering it out loud in front of like kind of in a safe space so that.
Yeah, because that way you can be creative. It's creative problem solving. So, because there can be some outlandish things that people will ask for things, but it's nice to be able to, you can just, if you're role playing just with you and someone else internally, you can pretty much do anything you want.
We even did that when we were doing it with our salespeople, was that, Scott threw out, when I was the salesperson and I thought I was doing great, and then he threw out an objection.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh yeah, but what about this? And I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah. And then you can go back and figure that out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without looking foolish in front of a client.
Exactly.
So what do you got there, Kevin?
I actually took some notes, and then I looked up some of the ideas around. I saw some ideas online. Like there was one, for example, which I never thought of, is videotaping your role playing. I thought that was kind of interesting. When I was, learning sales and took courses and whatnot, they always said a lot of it should be in the mirror. You should be looking looking in the mirror. But in talking to yourself and watching your expressions, and so same thing as videotaping.
And then lean in and give the mirror a kiss.
Exactly. Yep.
See what it's like from the other side.
And then what's another one here? This is a little over the edge, but hire consultants and actors, getting authentic role-playing experience from your team, and then imitate real-world scenarios. We already know that. And then one thing was interesting is use actual locations, something that I've never done. The best role plays are realistic as possible. Put participants in a physical location where they actually would experience the scenarios. Well, for us, it's at the office. But
yeah, because ours are over the phone,
right.
Conference, but it's not always. Sometimes you're actually at the client's office or that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I was thinking about the kind of things that you want to uncover when you're doing role playing. Like, what are the sort of things where you want to go, okay, that's something that comes up a lot. We want to figure out a standard approach to this to help your salespeople,
right?
Because they may not know it instinctively. One is qualification. It's always a tough question. What makes a good lead? Everybody's trying to figure it out as quick as they can. Now you can use like Clearbit and all these external sources that'll fill all the fields in your CRM for you in terms of like industry and company size. And I think what I learned anyway was that the typical things you look at when you're qualifying leads aren't always the best indicators of what makes a good lead. So for example, if you look at, okay, well, this is the industry we serve and this is the company size, that's usually what most people think of when they think of like, okay, let's, how do we figure out who is a good lead? But I think what we came out with was that the industry and the company size varies, but what is always the same is they have the problem that we're solving. And I think that's the first question you need to uncover when you get on a call or you're on live chat or however you're talking to a potential client, is how bad are they feeling the problem, right? Because if they're a huge company and you've got the decision maker and they're right in your wheelhouse and all those external factors seem good, but they're like, yeah, it's not that big a problem, I would walk away.
Right.
Right.
Also drilling down to specifics and what your offering is. Like, remember, I went to obviously we're proposal software, so I went down to the what was it? The American Proposal Professionals Association, and I'm going to go down there. I had a gut feeling I would find
nerds,
this out.
you tripped them.
And I went down there, and they all had the pain point.
Yeah.
But we weren't the right solution.
Right.
And, I think out of, 1,000 people, I had 10 good leads to follow up on.
That's true.
And I kind of knew that going in, but that was a real wake-up call.
But I would almost say they didn't have the pain. They might have had the pain of, okay, they need to write proposals and they want to save time doing it. But I think if you go even further for our good, our quality leads are ones who, they want more design flexibility.
Exactly.
It's very specific things that
that's
we
my point.
offer.
Yeah. They had the pain in the sense of, like you said, they needed to write proposals and they needed good workflow. But it's make sure that you align well.
Yeah. So questions that sales reps can ask is, a lead calls in or you call them. It's like, how did you find out about us? For us, it's, how many proposals does your team write every month? Because if they only write one every 2-3 months, walk away. It's not a good lead.
Right.
Moving on, objection handling. That's something that's common to every business, no matter what. Leads come to your door, you do your sales pitch. And then they say, whatever that reason is not to. Do you have this feature? Do you have a money back guarantee? You know what I mean? Just questions. How would you approach that?
I would throw back a question. Always have them make the first move of the play. So it's a great question, Kyle. Why do you ask? Is that an important aspect to your proposal process? And then they start talking more about it. And then oftentimes as they're talking, you can think about workarounds or other things that you could offer them that you could alleviate that situation. Exactly.
So for us, if you sell software or any type of business, for us, it's software. So a lot of people come to the door going, do you have feature X? Do you have custom variables? Do you have this? And it's kind of I think every person, sales and support people, the knee-jerk way of handling that is often to say, no, we don't have that, but it's on our roadmap and we hope to launch it soon, right? Which I think we're trying to get away from doing that because it's too easy. It's too much of a reflex for a lot of people to just say, no, we don't have it, but it's on our roadmap. We hope to launch it soon. And then maybe we don't launch it. Maybe the product team decides to take it off the roadmap, or the customer begrudgingly signs up because they're expecting to get this feature in, a month or whenever they think it's going to be launched, and then a year goes by and they cancel and they're not happy.
But it also takes the urgency of the sale away too, in a sense, right? You basically want to create some urgency. Like you need this right now. And yes, okay, maybe we don't have that right now, but guess what? We do have. How does that sound?
Exactly. It's perfect. Yeah. So just like you said, responding with a question is the best way to do it. Do you have feature X? I'm curious, why do you ask for that? What problem are you trying to solve, right? So if it's, for example, with our product, it could be people want forms. They want to be able to put, like a form that customers fill out on their proposal. It's not a feature we have. So we have a lot of leads who come knocking and they say, hey, do you have forms? And, it's easy to go, no, we don't, but we hope to in the future. And then they go away and it takes away the urgency of the sale.
Exactly.
What we're trying to do is show them workarounds. So what problem are you trying to solve with that? You're trying to get credit card information from customers? Okay, well, great. Use this Stripe integration or use this external tool, use Wufoo or Typeform and just add it as a link. Like solve their problem for them. Because ultimately that's what people want. They don't want the feature.
And you're also not dealing with a technical person, right? So they may not realize how, think about, when you're taking people's credit card information, that is very sensitive information. You don't want to deal with that. You don't have to build those algorithms and those forms. Stripe takes care of that, which we integrate with.
Yeah, exactly. So bottom line, it's solve their problem. Yeah. So, I think a good sales rep might say like, do you have feature X? Well, no or yes, but just so I'm clear, what problem you're really trying to solve with that, and then sort of take the conversation from there. So that's objections. Now, the last thing I guess to talk about is pricing. What's a good, how should salespeople talk about pricing, especially when you offer a higher price service and it might be bigger than what the average customer can afford? Do you wait until you're farther along in the sale to bring that up? Do you tell them right off the bat, this is how much it is? Risk sticker shock? How would you approach that?
Well, it's very common sense. You have to create value in what you're selling through your conversation. Price shouldn't even be an issue, quite frankly, in my opinion. If you have shown them how you're going to alleviate their pain, and you've done your job, then when the price comes, they'll see the value.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's off the charts, I mean, that's one thing, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If it's within reason with any of the competitors, or I mean, and again, I wouldn't even bring up competitors. I would just look at the value that you're creating. Yeah. And do scenarios, right? I mean, you had some great scenarios the other day, breaking down the cost and and the savings in our situation per proposal. Yeah. And then you break that down into real numbers. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Exactly. It's so easy when they say, what's your pricing? Or maybe your pricing is visible like it is on our site. And so people just go, oh, I want that low plan. Yeah. Instantly. You don't want your salespeople trained to just sort of go, okay, you want the low plan? Great. Let's go. You
could start by saying, when they ask about price, say, well, first let's take a step back. How many people work on proposals? How many proposals a month do you put out? Okay, so let's say if you could save 3 hours per proposal, what is that worth to you? Yeah. Approach it that way.
Exactly. That's what we're starting to do now is if we think that they read a lot of proposals, if there's a lot of people on the team, is let's just talk about what does that existing process look like? What's broken? How can we fix it? And then what would that add to your business? What would that add to your bottom line? If you could, save hundreds of hours a year, what does that translate to? Or if we could, if your average deal size is this and we can increase your close rate by even 5%, how much would that bring in a year?
Exactly.
And then when you show them the price, it's like, okay, well, that's like just a fraction. That's less than 10% of the actual value you'll bring. I think agencies can do that. It's very common. I mean, we live the life of website design agency owners, and it was just so common for people to come to you and say, hey, I want a website. It's got an about page. It's got a feature tour or whatever. And they would just tell you the pages they want, and then you kind of would base it around how complicated is it to build, right? And the discussion was nothing to do with the value it's going to bring to your business. Because ultimately, if it's a complex site that costs $100,000 to build, but you really don't need it, you're just bored. You're just looking for something to do. They're going to make a terrible client, right? Whereas, on the other hand, you could be building a very simple website that's not hard from a technical standpoint, but it's going to increase their sales leads by, 500% every month. So how many agency owners just don't even talk about that at the beginning?
Right. I agree.
So, you're selling marketing, you're selling a website, you're selling any sort of higher priced agency service. I think the takeaway there is like, focus on how can you bring that client value? How much would that be worth in a year? And then work back from there so that price becomes less shocking. And I think sort of the thread that ties all of this together is your salespeople can't read your mind. If you're the founder or you run the sales team, they kind of need you to tell them this stuff, and you may not even know yourself. So you have to work through that with them. And the best way to do it, I think, is role playing.
Yeah. I threw them into the fire. We were so busy, and our team, and I thought our guys did pretty good. Yeah. But now we're ready to go to the next level, and I think this is going to be a big part of our process.
And even if they were doing, if all of them were just completely crushing it and there was no worries, you still need to do this stuff, because then what if you hire the fourth person who has no clue, right? So it's a lot of it's about consistency.
Well, that's why we're doing this now, because we're growing. We're going to the next. We're in real growth phase. We're going to be hiring a lot, and we need to make sure that in every department, especially sales, this is consistency moving forward.
Absolutely. Yep. Hope you guys found that helpful. If you have any questions, you email us, founders@proposify.com, .com. And we've got some really cool announcements coming up pretty soon about our product and about a really cool book that the marketing team's been working on. We'll let you know about all that stuff. But in the meantime, be sure to hit subscribe so you get more content like this every week. See you next time.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Proposify Biz Chat with Kyle Racky. For more episodes, check us out on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Google Play. Click subscribe to get updated on the latest episodes, and be sure to rate and review.